This is our fourth one. We're going great guns in the new year. Smacked out 4 live streams already. That's great. We're very happy. Now, excuse me, I just rushed a Coke. Sorry for the delay. Me and Lise today, we're going to be smart and we're going to have a TikTok camera set up and we're going to have a YouTube camera set up. But for some reason, only the TikTok went live and the YouTube didn't. So I've had to come back. So that's why we're running half hour late. And if I seem a little bit more jittery and excited, it's good because we just had a really good live stream on TikTok. So I'm coming down a bit from that because it affects me. It affects me in a positive way and it's good. All right. So, yeah. And for those people who are watching me for the second time, it puts a bit of pressure on me because we don't script and I just talk and I make things up as I go. I'm a bit paranoid that this one may not be as good as the first one. So anyway, we'll see how we go. Today, cheating a little bit, and I've got a visual aid. And I've got the visual aid being the transfer pump. The reason I want to go through a transfer pump is because I talk about the transfer pumps all the time. When I say I'm pumping water, this is what I mean. I turn one of these pumps on. Now, we get our water from the creek, and we pump it into a storage tank. And then I've got another one of these at the storage tank, and we pump it up to hill to our main tank. The reason we pump water is we've got a spring, and it doesn't work. So it works, it's just dirty, and it needs to be serviced. And gravity, it's not flowing to the tank. So, because that's intermittent and unreliable, I really can't count on that. So we've only got this to pump the water around our block to get our water where we need to be. So when you hear me say I'm pumping water, this is what I'm talking about. Got a couple of these pumps set up around the block. This is the third one. This is a spare one in case anything happens if we need water, because by the time we get into the city, or we've got to order the parts because we are in Tassie and sometimes they haven't got all the stuff we need in the shop. So sometimes you're waiting. It's just handy to have another pump on site. And the other thing is to, ultimately, I suppose, we're going to turn this into a firefighting piece of equipment. I will put this onto a trailer. And when we have fires on the block, I can take to the fire. If we've got any spot fires, I'll be able to put out the spot fires. And the other thing is I can plug this into the house. Once we put a sprinkler system on the house, this will fight and keep the water on the house and protect us. Now, Lisa and I were at no stage at this point in time where we can stay during a fire because our fire plan at this stage is to run. We've got nothing. We haven't cleared any of the trees. Half the roads around us don't work, and we're just totally unprepared. And it will be our coffins here. So at this point in time, we are going to flee. That is our plan, and that's how we're going to be safe. But ultimately, this will be a part of our firefighting system. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Now, first thing I want to say is, when these come from overseas, these come dry. And what dry means is there's no oil in the sump down the bottom. If you, sorry, Lisa, what was it?
23 people watching.
Okay, hello guys, welcome back. These come shipped from overseas dry, which means there's no oil in them. You've got a little sump plug here, which screws out, and this has got a dipstick in it. So you just got to make sure that your oil levels are right. So you undo this plug here, and you can see it's got the dipstick on it. And yeah, I know my levels right now. The other day I went to use the pump and it wouldn't start, which is the reason I'm doing this video as well. And when your pumps don't start, there's 3 things that can go wrong. It's either your air, your fuel, or the spark. So I checked those 3 things, which I'm actually going to do next, and it still didn't work. And then I had a good idea that, I might have a low level oil cutout, which it did. So the level had got too low. So the machine protects itself, because if it runs dry, it's going to seize and you're going to burn it out, and you pretty much destroy your pump. So oil level is very important. It needs to be right, not only to protect your pump, but so you can do your starting procedure. And then the other thing, obviously, you need your fuel, whether it's a diesel or a 2-stroke or whatever it may be. This is dry. I haven't used it at all yet, but yeah, if you were to start it, need fuel and you need oil in your sump. All right. Now, the actual starting procedure, what you need to do, obviously you've got your water plumbed and all your pipes plumbed. This is just the starting procedure. You put this switch here to on, so it needs to be on. So you turn that to on, and then you go around the other side here, where you've got your fuel valve and you've got your choke. So you've got a fuel valve here down the bottom. Now, what the manufacturer says is when you're storing it, you shut the valve off so that they don't want any fuel going through to the bowl and clogging up and restricting your line. So when you're storing it for a long time, your fuel tap needs to be shut off. Because mine are always operating, mine are always left on, all right? So make sure you got your fuel. The next thing you need to do is put the choke on. So choke goes on this one. Make sure your choke goes on. And the choke just restricts the orifice so not too much air goes in. So at the start, when the spark plug's firing, it needs the most octanes in the fuel, so it restricts the airflow. And when you get your spark, you get your ignition. So that's what you need your choke for. And as soon as the machine starts, you put your throttle on, all right? Turn off your choke and put your throttle on. So that's the 4 things that needs to work. Switch over here needs to be on. Fuel tap needs to be on, so fuel can go into the carby. You need your choke restricted at the start, and you need your throttle back. Obviously, I'm not going to do it because it's dry. Then you'll just pull it, and you'll hear the motor sputter. And once the motor sputters, quickly just give it a little bit of throttle and turn your choke back off. And now once she's running, give it 20 seconds, and then you can give it the full beans. You give it the mustard, all right? But always a good idea, because the oil's been settled, you want your cylinder bore to be lubricated before you give it the mustard, all right? So that's the first 2 things I wanted to cover. First thing was make sure your fluid levels are right before you start your machine. So that was done. Then you start up procedure, switch goes on, carby gets choked, fuel tap on, couple of rips, and then you give it your throttle. All right, so that is the startup procedures. Now, I'm going to talk about the ports. When you look at any pump, whatever pump it may be, the port, you can tell a lot by a pump by the port sizes. The largest port is always the inlet, where what you're trying to suck or what you're trying to move. The inlet is always the biggest, and the outlets are the smaller ones. All right, so you can tell by looking at this one here is the inlet. And as I was touching before, you can hear this rubber seal. That's just a rubber, like a check valve. So once the water goes in, it can't come back out. It's got to go into the impeller, and then it's got to get pumped through the housing, and then it comes out its ports. All right, so largest one is your inlet. On your inlet, because these pumps have tight tolerances, you need a foot valve or a strainer or something. So if this was plumbed in, this just goes into the water, and this stops, kitchen sinks, frogs, cats, dogs getting sucked into your pump. Because if they get into your pump, they're going to ruin it. And not only ruin it, they can seize it, but they can also do damage where rocks and stuff will wear out the casing, and then you lose your efficiency. So you need an inline strainer. Now, with the port orientation, it doesn't matter which one you use, really. Generally, if I was pumping this way, you'd use this port off the side. If I want to, say, pump down a hill, I'd use the port down the side. Or if I want to pump back the way I come, I'd just screw my fittings onto this outlet here. So,
But they're different sizes, so it just means different size poly tubes, doesn't it?
Yeah. See? So so with the port sizes, with that, so if you want to move a big volume of water, you would have you'd use the bigger port. But if you want a pressure, like we probably want more pressure, we use the smaller ones. And plus our transfer pumps, well, they use different size poly tubes, that's right. So it's different size outlet for different size poly tube, but the owner can pick whether they want to go the larger one for moving more volume or a smaller one if they did want more pressure. All right, so yeah, your port's up here. You can use any port you want. That's just options to make your life easier. All right, and then one other thing I do, obviously this is for 2-inch, I haven't got 1-inch stuff, but same concept. Once I start running it and I've got half throttle, half beans running, I bleed it. And so I'd use this port here, and this would be plumbed, and I just open this, sorry, that's open there, I open that valve. So I start it, when it starts, it's got to be open, because you don't want the pump to cavitate, right? But then when I start to send the water up the hill, I've got a valve on the other side, I open that, and I shut this one, I let it build up for a little bit, and you can feel the housing getting a bit hotter. Once I feel it getting a bit hotter, the spring water is really cold, so I know that the hot is some air. So I just open this a little bit, and you hear that shh, shh, shh. That's all the air getting out of it, all right? And I do that probably for the first 5 minutes. I do that probably 3 times. I just keep bleeding it, and then I know at the end, there's no air trapped in my pump. It's all water, and it's the most efficient this system can be. So I've got a bleed valve set up, which I take off because when I cover them up overnight, I just leave it on top of it. Yeah, so that's my bleed valve. So if you ever hear me say I bleed the water, all I do is open this valve or similar to let the air out. And the last thing on the pump I've got to mention is up here, prime. When you hear people say they've got to prime the pump, what prime means is you got to put water in it. So you pour your water in through this top here. Priming just means at the start there's air, and there's a whole lot of air getting circulated around, and if the water's coming in and the air's staying up there and it's not getting out, you lose your efficiency. So you just keep pouring your water in until it becomes primed. You want this whole casing filled with water. So when you hear I had to prime the pump, this is what they mean. They're putting water through the top here. And when you hear people say they have to bleed it, they're bleeding it through the side. All right. So inlet port with a check valve needs an inline filter. Your outlet ports, pick the size which suits you or for the orientation of where you want to run. And there is your priming port there. Right. Next thing I need to say is servicing it. When the pump stopped the other day, there was the three things you automatically got to check. First thing is your air filter. Air filter's just on the back here. I'll turn that around. Air filter's right here. You just screw this off here. Pretty easy to get to. And the reason you check your air filter is, especially on motor motors or whippersnippers, when the dust, and these get full of dust, and that dust turns to a mud, and that restricts the amount of air going in, which cause your air-fuel ratios, and it won't start. So, because this is brand new, it's not going to have a problem, but I just want to show you. There's your air filter there. So, you just take this foam thing off here, and if this was clogged, dirty, insects get into here. I've seen insects and wasp nest and stuff get into here. Now, this whole surface here needs to be clean. You can clean that just in hot soapy water, or you can get your air compressor and you can give that a blow, or you can replace it. But in order for your system to work, your air filter needs to be clean. That's the first thing you need to check. And you're just seeing it's pretty easy to access. And another thing is, start your bastard. Sometimes you can cheat with a spray like this. All right. If it's not sparking and you hear it sparking, this is a real high octane, or not octave, octane, I think, and that's highly flammable. That'll just give the spark enough chemical to fire in the cylinder. All right, so air filter, because this is brand new, but yeah, there's our air filter. Now what I'm going to do, because it was a bit hard before, our air filter's clean. Now what you do is you check your spark plug. So you just pull off this cap here. That exposes your spark plug, and again, you get a tool from the manufacturer, which is just a long series socket. Put this onto your tool. Now, what you in here, and obviously this is brand new, but with a system that's used a couple of times before, what happens is the spark plug can become carbonated. And what carbonated means is, I think it's carbonated, it becomes black, it becomes fouled. At the end of the spark plug here, your electrode, you've got a tiny little gap right in here. There's a tiny little gap in there. All right, now, it sparks between those two surfaces. It sparks. Now, if that's carbonated, it becomes insulated. The insulated won't let the little spark hit the electrodes. So what you do, if this was fouled over and dirty, you just get yourself a little bit of emery paper like this. And you rub around all the sides, and this emery paper actually fits in the gap of the electrodes, and you rub your electrodes, you turn it over, and you get rid of all the blackness. Once all the blackness is gone, you know that it's no longer insulated, it will conduct, and your spark can go between the electrodes. And that's right in the cylinder where your clean air and your clean fuel go.
Emery paper, is that just sandpaper?
In a bind, you'd use sandpaper. Yeah, you could.
What's the difference between emery and sandpaper?
I really don't know. There are different types of sandpaper. You've got your painting sandpaper, you've got your woodworking sandpaper, you've got tradesmen, fitters, we use emery paper. But pretty much, yeah, it's all just sandpaper. So okay. I'm just used to saying emery paper because of my trade. But yeah, painters call it sandpaper, yeah. Chippies call it sandpaper. But yeah, I mean, I have used sandpaper before as well. This is just a wet and dry, all right? But that's a Norton, well, that's a painting, I don't know. Yeah, sandpaper, just use sandpaper, all right?
Awesome. So, hey, you've done 15 minutes, babe.
I've got to keep going, I'm nearly finished.
Okay.
So after we've checked our air, all right, and then we check our spark, and we know they're good, then the final thing we've got is just the fuel bowl, which is under here. and you've got to make sure that your fuel is flowing. Sometimes they get blocked up with mud and they get caked up and the fuel can't go through. So, and then the last thing you do is you come down to your fuel bowl, which is here, and you check this and you make sure that, I've got to get that on, you make the wrong way, you make sure that the fuel can flow through your fuel valve in here. So you take this off, yeah, and I've had sediment and mud and dirt build up in there, so you tip that out, turn on your fuel tap, flush that a little bit and clear that. But so that's it. When I went through the starting procedures, which are the electrical switch needs to be on, the fuel tap needs to be open, the choke needs to be choked, then you give it a rip, and then after she's sputtered, just put your throttle on and turn your choke off. So that's the starting procedures. So that's how they start. The two things you need to check before the starting procedure is fuel and your oil. And if you haven't got fuel, you haven't got oil, the machine won't start anyway. But you've got to check that. And then if she has been in service for a bit and you're finding it a bit tricky, that's the three things you need to check. Your air filter, your spark plug, or your fuel bowl. So that's it. That is the transfer pump. That is how we move our water around the block. Saves us carrying buckets, make our life easier. I always have a jerry can and a funnel really close to these, so that if it's ever rainy or cold, or the other day I come home and the cows had chewed up the tap and we needed to pump something, it wasn't like scheduled, or it wasn't ready, everything's there on site for me. Another thing I do is I've got all my pumps the same, so if one of my transfer pumps did stop, when it comes to the port hoses, I'm not going to open the bag, they're here. I just run all the same size, so it means that I can grab any of the hoses. I port mine all the same, you know, so I use the 1.25" or the 2" and so that all my hoses are interconnectable. Excuse me. That's it. What else did I, from the TikTok list, did I cover everything?
You've done more. You were more elaborate on this one.
Yeah.
The TikTok one, because of the IT issues.
Yep.
And introducing the animals are walking around.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
actually more thorough in this one.
So we've learnt the lesson. Maybe I need to have a practice run before you wind up the monkey next time. Oh, and
Thanks,
Wilma's
Chris.
just coming at the end, of course. I cannot make a video without Wilma, all right? Yeah. Now we're getting back to this, so I can't remember, Liz, because what was that? Has that been 20 minutes?
This is 18 minutes. So just summarise. So today's live stream has been on the water transfer pump. It's our third one. Hope you liked it. We didn't get any questions come through, so I can't really ask any questions.
All right,
but
yeah.
maybe next week when we do our next live stream, we'll put a topic on there. If you have any questions about it, please let us know. This week's a short one, isn't it?
Well, no, because actually I've done half hour already. I've done 20 minutes. So what the punters out there are seeing is a short one, but I've actually been talking for an hour now. So I know what you're saying. Was meant to be short, so yeah. So I don't know if I said at the start. Hello guys, welcome back. Thanks for watching again. Hope you found the information. And again, I said this was just the basics on a transfer pump. Just wanted a visual aid, and it makes it easy for me to talk about. Hope you found it interesting. Well, Lise, and there's no questions about the transfer pumps?
No. And then just a sneak peek, guys, where our chickens are kind of scratching. Justin's currently about to make a concrete base for our upcoming off-grid solar install.
Yeah.
So that's the start.
So
and
you
then
can see that the concrete slab start there.
Yeah.
You can see all the bags of quickset there.
Yeah.
And you can actually see the trench. We might as well talk about this. Here's a trenching tool I built the other day at work, which goes onto the back of the tractor to make my trench easier. And obviously this bit here was hanging straight down, and that's how much I've bent it. And I've actually bent it another 150 mil. We used the tractor, we used my ute, and we actually straightened it up a bit. But so this is going back to work with me on Tuesday, and this is getting
videos to come this week of the trenching. So I'll give you the first bit, and then I'll probably end it here, babe. So say goodbye.
Me.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
There's Wilma. There's our chooks.
Next Sunday.
And then this is our start of our trenching, which we need to go deeper for Simon to put all his conduit. but that's the start. It's about 30 meters worth. But see you guys next week.